Hey everyone, welcome to the podcast Modern Couples, What Your Therapist Never Told You. My name is Rick Miller,
I'm Lillian Borges.
and we're both therapists who love working with couples. We're thrilled you've joined us today, and our topic for today is sleeping in separate rooms.
Do you sleep in the same room or separate rooms?
I sleep in the same room, and every now and then I venture into the other room if I can't sleep. So I'm really glad you asked that question because I wanted to start with, are we talking about always or sometimes?
Yes. That's the answer. Yes.
Yes to both.
To both.
That is
Yes.
the
And
answer.
what is the reason that makes you go to a separate room, right?
Yeah.
Because there are practical reasons, and couples can discuss that and say, should we sleep in separate rooms when one person is snoring too much, the other one is tossing and turning because of stresses or work related stuff. They talk about it, and I didn't want to bother you, so I went
Hmm.
to the other room. But there are other times as well that couples decide to sleep separately as an arrangement. They do that, they have different rooms and things like that.
So you're talking about a healthy arrangement within a couple that's communicated and talked about. Love your smile.
Do you know any couples like this?
Well, I've actually worked with some couples, and I have a friend who he has his own room in his partner's house. She's previously married with two kids, and they all live under the same roof. So the mom has her room, and they are an intimate sexual couple. Both of the kids have their own rooms, and he has his own room.
So they live in separate houses?
Nope. Separate rooms in the same house.
Okay, in the same house. Okay.
And he heard one of our previous episodes, sleeping with the dogs, and worried that there was something wrong with their relationship, that they slept separately. And what we are seeing in the media, in the newspaper, on the news, time and time again these days, is that couples are opting to sleep separately for the reasons that you mentioned. People are aging, some people snore, some people have restless leg syndrome. People are stressed out and they're worried about keeping their partners awake. For me, what happens is I need to move around when I can't sleep. I need to read. I need to not worry about anything so that I can drift off again. And that's when I go into a separate room. I knew a couple that they slept in the bedroom, except the partner slept on a chair for
Huh.
months on end, and it was never dealt with. So that's sleeping in the same room, but not communicating about what really is going on.
Yes. And I think that there's also couples who decide to sleep in a separate room after a fight, or they're not doing well
Hmm.
and they are getting more and more distant. And one person goes and sleep in another room, and that continues. Nobody talk about it. It is, and it's awkward, and the kids see it, and the dogs sleep with one person, and and the dogs sleep in next to the person who is sleeping, so instead of the partner. That is less ideal, or when that just creates more and more distance. That is a way of solving, quote unquote, solving issues, difficult communicating, difficult with reparation. Sometimes they fight, they don't know how to repair, they don't know how to come back and say, honey, I'm sorry. You are more important than this silly thing. Let's agree to disagree, or whatever it is, right? How to repair. And they don't, or they don't solve a conflict. They can't talk about something. And then they just decided by, okay, I'll stay here, you stay there.
Yeah. Easier to keep distance than to deal.
Well, it will pay a price, and then that price is not going to be so easy.
Well, yeah. Yeah. So I think nowadays there are healthy models for sleeping separately. And in the sleep literature, in the American Academy of Sleep Medicine, they say that a third of Americans prioritize sleeping separately. And they, of course, advocate for what you and I are talking about, which is to come up with a clear path and to communicate with each other, find ways of being intimate with each other and spending time together regardless of sleeping. But the term that they call it, which really gets to me in a negative way, is called sleep divorce.
That's kind of funny name. I don't know.
And yeah, exactly. So the term divorce really doesn't have positive connotations. And yet the concept of sleep divorce is supposed to. So you and I have to create our own term for whatever it is, but I wouldn't call it a divorce. That's for sure.
I don't know. I will something will come up. But yeah, so we should come up with something that actually translate what we are trying to do.
How about sleeping with each other from different spaces?
So we should come up with something that actually translate what we are trying to do. Sleeping separately does translate. Divorce comes a different connotation. That there is like not only a separation, there is
A problem.
yes, a problem. And because you only divorce when there's a problem, which is not untrue. When you're sleeping separately, there are problems. People are stressed out, restless legs, or whatever it is. But that comes with the question: is sleeping together the right thing to do when people are married? That has to be the norm.
Oh, it's funny that you ask that because now I'm thinking of my upbringing in the early 60s. Couples frequently slept in twin beds in the same room, twin beds with the end table in between the two. So obviously, the benefits of sleeping together is that you feel like you're in sync with your partner. There may be some struggles about how hot, how cold, how many sheets, blah, blah, blah. But drifting in and out of the world together can be felt as something special and something that both are doing simultaneously. Sometimes I wake up and I think about how odd it is that I've been on my own journey all night long in my sleep, in my dreams, and I'm sleeping next to my spouse and we're together and yet so very separate. I don't know. It's just a weird sensation that sometimes I think about.
No, it's not weird. I think if we talk about attachment and attachment theory, every time that we separate, that we are not going to see our spouse or our partner for a while, whether it is you go into your dreams and you sleep, or you go out to work, or you go on a travel, those separations and going back are important to reconnect. We don't see that as something that is important, but it is very important. Say good morning, good night, because we are separating, as you said. I'm a different world,
Yeah.
so it is important. I was just reflecting, and I think that nowadays we have a relationship because we want intimacy,
Yeah.
and we are much more trying to find what works for us instead of trying to fit any mold that the society or anybody told us. And in that sense, I would think that there are some people who like being in bed cuddling, and there are some people who don't. They prefer being in separate rooms. They do not have that need. That being said, I love sleeping together, cuddling, feeling the warmth. I think that that brings a lot of emotion regulation, de-stress, sometimes better sex or more sex, but it's my preference.
Okay, so a couple things. I think I'm going to just go into what I'm thinking about as a healthy model for sleeping separately, which is all of the things that you just mentioned with intimacy. In my mind, or at least my fantasy mind, a couple that chooses to sleep separately is very well connected to each other. They do a lot of things together during the day. When it's time to go to sleep, they say goodnight to each other. They give each other a kiss goodnight. And in the morning, they reconnect and say good morning to each other with the same sense of connection as sleeping next to each other. That's my ideal. And that's what I would suggest with couples that I work with. I've certainly worked with couples that sleep separately on occasion for the reasons we mentioned, but not who have separate bedrooms intentionally.
I know few couples who do have and have been sleeping in separate bedrooms for years.
Mhm.
They never got to sleep together because of who they are, because of their texture things, or because of the noises thing, because of the neurodiversity that each one of them have. And they're okay. If we see them, you see that there is some type of disconnection there, but it serves them well in a sense of that this is who they are. Having too many stimulation around them, it makes them uncomfortable.
Mm. Are they public about not sharing the same bedroom or
Yeah.
wow, I like that. That's just a part of their life and they don't have to feel ashamed or secretive or anything.
No. And again, right, it's just doing what works for you.
Yeah.
And for some couples, is that's what they need. What I like about what you said is the connection. As long as you're keeping the connection, as long as you're talking about what needs to be talked about, as long as you're not brushing off or under the rug the conflict and the unrepaired fights that you have, that's all good.
Right.
You have to find what works for you.
I'm thinking about elderly couples who have been married for years and years, and it's not unusual that their sex life wanes and that they may want to sleep separately for the sake of privacy, for the sake of sleep. And the people that I know that do this have perfectly good relationships. They're very committed and their marriage is strong, or at least it looks like that from my vantage point.
Well, I know, and I've worked with elder couples who were sleeping in separate rooms, and it's seemingly having a good relationships, but not really. They were very disconnected. So they were a good couple in the traditional sense. They did everything together, went to all the social events. It was very loved couple, but just the two of them. They were not a team. It was very traditional in what he did and what she did, but she felt him very abrasive, not very affectionate. She needed affection. He was very critical
Hmm.
and not very warm physically. Oh, 30 years ago, now that ship had sailed and they're not invested in couples therapy. The
Hmm.
husband was bringing the wife, and this is just one couple, because she was depressed. And she was deeply lonely. It was just like, this is the saddest thing when you're alone in a marriage, in a relationship. I
Hmm.
think it's worse.
It sounds like they needed couples therapy more than anything else. Could have made a big difference.
And some people choose to be in that situation. And also, it makes us scratch our heads and say, Why do you do that?" And a lot of times, us, couples therapists know that we learned that in our childhood. We saw that model at home. We saw our parents not getting along, or this is what it looks like. They don't talk to each other. They just always fighting. And that's what this is what I'm supposed to expect from a relationship. I'm not supposed to expect anything more than that, other than conflict, distance. There is no way to solve any conflict. I cannot communicate with you. And then you take that model to your relationship, which is not completely conscious, but this is what you're expecting. And when you see that happening, you blame that on bad luck, you blame it on, I cannot divorce because would have a bad effect on the kids, on the finances. But primarily, there is this belief that no, I will not get a good relationship, a happy relationship. So why change?
So that's another model that I think it's safe to say you and I probably wouldn't really support, which is a couple who's avoiding dealing with whatever the truth is or keeping their space and living separately while choosing to live under the same roof. And it reminds me of a friend of mine. She and her husband live together in the house. They're separated, quote unquote, but they also live under the same roof. So they hate each other and neither of them are leaving. And it's a really painful, painful model.
Usually, a lot of times couples like that don't come to us. They say, we created a great life. We travel, we have nice cars. We have a big house. Our family's good. So I will settle. They might have an affair here and there or not. Some of them settle that way. Sometimes they come to us for couples therapy, but it's very surface level. They want their partner to stop bitching and money or fighting. They want to point the finger. It's my partner who is this. You tells us what we need to do. We just want to have a couple of skills to improve our marriage a little. There are some couples. and the number is increasing more and more, I think, who really wants intimacy, who really wants to work on their relationship and improve it, because that takes work.
But those are the couples that come into couples therapy and do the hard work, because couples therapy is never easy and it's never fun, but they also feel the progress. The other thing I wanted to say about the couples that you were talking about is that frequently people will come into couples therapy to have their partner change, and it doesn't really work that way. And we've talked about this in other episodes.
Yeah.
Okay, what about you and sleeping separately? Is that something you've done in your life, or do you always sleep with your spouse? And do you feel comfortable in the middle of a difficult place sleeping in the same bed?
Well, my ex-husband had a lot of issues. He had restless legs and he snored, and he was very restless a person, and it was really difficult to sleep with him. I tried really hard. Um
Mhm, mhm.
we changed mattresses, we bought bigger beds, and for a while it was okay, and then his restless legs became so bad that he would sleep in a different room, and we would go back and forth. I would go and then he would go, but then he started, going more often, because I said, "Why do I always have to go, me to be the one that needs to go somewhere else? You're the one that has a problem and snores and, kicks."
Mhm.
And, so he started doing that. So I had that, and also when decided to divorce, I started sleeping in a different room, and that was that. But my preference is to sleep with my partner, because I do like that, and I think it is important. But as I'm getting older, I have to confess, as I'm getting older and I have much more work and also more difficulty to sleep, menopause and everything just affects my sleep, and noises, are more sensitive to noises. And so all that gets in a way. And sometimes I prefer to go to another room so I can have a good night's sleep, because I'm more affected by my partner.
So when people do that, you included, me included, we need to feel okay about going into the room to get sleep and not worry about what it means. Because a lot of people in therapy will say to me, "Oh my God, there's something wrong." And it's like, I go, I just want to normalize it for them. It's okay. And sometimes it's too warm in the bedroom and it's cooler and all that stuff. When couples don't sleep well, they're more apt to fight the next day,
Yeah.
either because you kept me awake or because they're so tired. So sometimes sleeping in a separate room is better for the relationship than it is staying together.
Yes. And again, it doesn't have to be set in stone. It might be a occasional problem that happens, but some people decide to sleep in separate rooms because of how they are made up. They are neurodiverse, so they prefer to. And there are people who are asexual. They're lovely people, lovely couples, and they knew that about each other. They chose that way, and that's all good. The episode today is sleeping in separate rooms. When you decide and you think that that's a good arrangement, whether it is a one night thing or a period thing or forever, that's all good, as long as the two of them agree on that.
So as we wrap up, do you have any ideas or tips about how to handle this?
So I like what you said about, could you repeat that one more time?
Absolutely. So, the American Academy of Sleep Medicine calls sleeping separately in a healthy way sleep divorce, which I, of course, don't agree with. And a third of Americans prioritize sleeping separately. So, for these folks, how do they do it? What are your tips about creating something like that that works and is healthy?
So, for those one third of the population who prefer to sleep separately, I would say check on your partner, check the connection. Are you connecting in other ways? Are you doing the reparation when there is a conflict and a fight?
Hmm.
Do you prioritize your partner over everybody else? How do you get your co regulation with your partner? Because a lot of the co regulation comes from being close, from holding hands, from cuddling. The other day, I heard that from Stan Tatkin that there's an area in our brain that has an inner dialogue, right? When we worry a lot and when we keep thinking a lot, and that prevents us from sleeping at night. Talking to your partner and listening, right, to your partner that soothes that part of you, which is interesting. And that's why there are apps with stories that you listen to stories. That's why we tell stories to our kids. So sometimes soothing and talking to your partner is also be as a way of connecting. So, but prioritize the connection.
It's funny that the topic is sleeping in separate rooms, but really it's about sleeping in some ways and communicating. If you're a couple who chooses to sleep separately, deal with what it means and allow yourselves to have a healthy acceptance about that. Make time for intimacy. If you're not intimate at nighttime, spend time together, check in with each other, make sure things are okay, and to not use sleeping separately as an avoidance, but create the intimacy that you would have at nighttime as much as you can at other times. Obviously, remain connected as a couple, be the couple, the intimate couple that you are, and reinforce the fact that you are in a partnership that's healthy and you put your relationship above anything else.
Nicely said.
Thank you. I'm hoping for a good night's sleep tonight. I don't know about you.
Oh, I'm hoping for a good night's sleep. I slept well, but not enough again. So
Mhm.
cross your fingers.
I go through phases of good sleep and then bad sleep, and,
Uh, yeah.
when you're in one of those phases, it's tough.
Yes, yes, it
So
is.
here's to good sleep and good couples. So that's it for today. Thanks again for joining us for Modern Couples, What Your Therapist Never Told You. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you. See you next time.
Sweet dreams.